somehow Palpatine returned.
This line of dialogue has become one of the single most ridiculed things in not only the Star Wars sequels, but the entire Star Wars franchise as a whole, despite Mary from Lord of the Rings immediately following the statement up with mention of cloning, dark science, and secrets that only the Sith knew, and this concept being ripped verbatim from the old Star Wars comic Dark Empire, which even predates the prequel trilogy. The idea of Palpatine jumping into a new body to cheat his death from Return of the Jedi is not something Disney came up with. Okay, crackpot theory time. One recurring element between Emperor Palpatine's appearances in Return of the Jedi, The Force Unleashed, and The Rise of Skywalker is that Palpatine is trying to goad the protagonist into striking him down in anger while tapping into the dark side. When it comes to Luke, the situation could be read as Palpatine trying to turn Luke to the dark side and have him defeat Vader to become his new apprentice, or he was confident enough in Vader's abilities to defend him from Luke, since Luke only recently completed his Jedi training. Regardless, the Emperor felt that he was in control the entire time. As for Rey, he wanted her to slay him while opening herself up to the dark side so that he could possess her body, since the clone body he was inhabiting was old and falling apart. He even used the same method of trying to anger her that he did to Luke by forcing them to watch as their allies were being destroyed while they were unable to help. But what about Starkiller in The Force Unleashed? What does he gain from Starkiller exacting his revenge? Vader can't really defend him, since he's kind of in pieces at the time, and it would seem that outside of just trying to corrupt Starkiller with his dying breath, Palpatine stands to gain nothing from this. The rebellion hasn't even been formally founded yet, and this would leave the Empire greatly crippled without its leader. While it is true that to a certain extent, Palpatine is petty enough to just try to ruin everybody's life for no discernible return on investment, he has also been shown to play 5D chess with the entire galaxy and has more contingency plans than Batman. I think there's an ulterior motive here. While Darth Plagueis discovered how to manipulate midichlorians for accelerated healing and even briefly reviving the dead, what if Palpy found his own way to cheat death? What if he had Force Essence Transfer the entire time, or at least far back enough to have it between the prequels and the original trilogy? What if in all three instances, he was seeking a new vessel with Force potential that came close to his own? Note, I say what if, because pretty much every piece of Star Wars media under the umbrella title of Legends is subject to scrutiny in terms of continuity, because some stories build off of one another while others disregard or contradict them. And for most of what we know of Legends, George Lucas has actually gone on record saying that they weren't his stories, and that the Emperor died for good in Return of the Jedi, and some fans are Lucas's word is law purists. But getting back to the theory, in Empire Strikes Back, Vader tells Luke that he has the power to destroy the Emperor, and that Palpatine has foreseen this. Luke is the son of the Chosen One, after all. In the dark side ending of The Force Unleashed, Palpatine tells the now cyborg Starkiller that prior to his conversion, because cybernetics remove midichlorians and hamper Force potential, that Galen could have been his successor and equal, so he must be at least close in power to Darth Sidious. As for Rey, she's the daughter of Palpatine's clone, so she has her forebear's great Force potential. Alternatively, she's related to him by DNA, so maybe the transfer would have just been easier? Let's go back to Dark Empire, where this plotline was recycled from. When Luke confronts Palpatine, Sidious reveals that he has actually died numerous times, even before Return of the Jedi, and kept reviving via clone bodies. He also states that if Luke were to strike him down while in a rage, there's a probability that Palpatine could even possess him and take his younger, stronger body for his own. Since Dark Empire takes place roughly 10 years after A New Hope, this stands to reason that in at least one possible version of the events that played out, this might have been Palpatine's plan all along. He was tired of jumping into clone bodies and wanted a stronger, younger shell. But in all three instances, when Luke, Starkiller, and Rey disengaged and wouldn't open themselves up to the dark side, he simply decided to eliminate them. Dark Empire did show that the Emperor can jump into the body of a light side user if his body dies, but if they're strong enough with the light and his spirit can't overcome them, then he can't control them or jump out of that body. This is how he was defeated, with Brand sacrificing himself to contain the Emperor and extinguishing both of their lives together, preventing Sidious from taking control of the infant Anakin Solo. What does this say for the dark side ending of The Force Unleashed, then? Why damage his new potential vessel and cripple its Force potential with cybernetics? In the dark side ending, Starkiller had eliminated Vader, so upon his failed assassination attempt, Palpatine turned Galen into a Sith Stalker, whereas in the light side ending, Vader was still alive and could be repaired. For this theory to work, I would say that Palpatine wanted an apprentice, or at least an enforcer, at all times, and that was a higher priority than getting a stronger body, since, as shown in Dark Empire, he can use essence transfer multiple times. Now, counterpoint to this theory, all four works were written by different people at different times, and they likely didn't all have the same idea at the same time. The Force Unleashed just seemed to be trying to take notes from Return of the Jedi because Starkiller's inception was meant to be an alternative version of Luke Skywalker, showing us what Luke could have been if he had trained with the Force his whole life. Some similarities just make logical sense that way. And as we all know, Star Wars loves to repeat itself, not just in quotes, but also in theming and plot points, even in the pre-Disney era. As for Rise of Skywalker, the sequel trilogy on the whole took countless notes and copy and pasted several elements from the original trilogy and Dark Empire, among other works, so they were direct references in a different timeline rather than simply having similar theming. Additionally, while both The Force Unleashed and Dark Empire fall under the umbrella of Legends, I don't know if we can rightfully call them in the same continuity, since The Force Unleashed has retconned other Legends works before, and as of right now, I'm not equipped to try to trace the most linear timeline between the two works, especially since The Force Unleashed 2 left off on a big cliffhanger and the third game is never going to happen. And just to be clear, I'm not trying to say that The Force Unleashed, Return of the Jedi, Dark Empire, and Rise of Skywalker are part of the same canon. I'm simply pointing out the possibility that perhaps Darth Sidious did have this Force ability at his disposal the entire time across all versions, and we just weren't privy to it. While I don't think this is concrete evidence to say that, yes, this was Palpatine's plan all along, I think the recurring elements at least imply that he might have had the ability to do so, even if that wasn't his intention the whole time. This theory could also add some additional context as to why Sidious bothered to keep Darth Maul around. As both the Tales of the Jedi animated series and the Darth Plagueis novel have shown, Maul was never intended to be Sidious's true successor, but rather Count Dooku was, and Maul was just the enforcer. Sidious hadn't counted on Maul being defeated by Obi-Wan, and when he found Maul alive years later, he mentioned still having use for Maul, despite no longer seeing him as an apprentice. Maybe the original plan was to keep Maul around as a possible vessel to transfer into when Maul eventually tried to enact the Sith Rule of Two and assassinate his own master. Palpatine would then have a newer, younger, and very powerful and athletic body to use. What do you think, though? Do you think that in Return of the Jedi and The Force Unleashed that Palpatine was trying to possess the protagonist, or is it merely a coincidence due to similar theming? Do you have an alternate take on this theory? And what is your favorite Star Wars Legends work? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.